one of the most intriguing stories I read today, Joe Burrow, who was the #1 overall pick in the 2020 class, him and the Cincinnati Bengals, they have actually agreed on a vow of silence, reports say, as it pertains to their contract talks. Remember, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, all that 2020 class, which means they can currently negotiate their deals. Well, I think Joe Burrow's vow of silence is the worst thing he could do contractually from a macro perspective. Here is what that 2020 class should do. They should do something called going favored nations. Favored nations is when a group of people come together and they all agree that they want the same thing. We saw it before with the show Friends. Jennifer Aniston, Matthew Perry, David Schwimmer, etc. What they did was they went favored nations and they said, we all want to make the same amount of money. They ended up all getting $1 million per episode. Because one individual cast member will not be stronger than the network, but the entire cast can be stronger than the network. One individual football player, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, they will not be stronger than the owners, but all of those players can collectively be stronger than the owners. Joe Burrow should not vow of silence with the Cincinnati Bengals. Instead, he should call up Lamar, call up Hurts, call up Herbert, and they should collectively say, we will not play this season unless we all get fully guaranteed deals. Now, the amount that is guaranteed, that can fluctuate dependent upon the team and the salary cap. But imagine if we woke up on Monday morning and saw Herbert, Hurts, Burrow, Lamar put out the same exact statement with their signatures on the bottom. We will not play this season unless we all get fully guaranteed deals. Favored nations and entertainment ideology that you see as it pertains to contracts is something that NFL players should adopt. If you really want to see a seismic shift in the National Football League as it pertains to fully guaranteed contracts, Lamar Jackson, you individually will not be stronger than an owner. Joe Burrow, you individually will not be stronger than the owner. But collectively, we've never truly seen 4 top 8 quarterbacks be up for a contract at the same period in time. We're witnessing that right now in 2023. Those players have to leverage their power. Player empowerment, the operative word there is not empowerment. Shady, the operative word there is actually player. And I think those players need to come together to make a change. But what do you say about that?
I totally agree, right? When this question came up, that's the first thing I thought about. I remember being in the locker room and we were going back and forth with the CBA about what the players wanted, what the owners wanted. And I remember talking to players, right? How can we make a difference? It won't be from a superstar running back. It won't be from a great left tackle. It won't be from a great defensive end. It's the quarterback. The owners see the quarterback as a coach, as somebody in the upper office. So think about that. If the quarterbacks came to the table and said, this is what we want to do for the league, right? Now, I know that these guys are young, but for the agents, for the money, if they said, okay, boom, we won't keep this negotiations quiet. Joe Burrow comes in there, I want a fully guaranteed contract, right? Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, he's going through right now. If they all have the same game plan, we can get somewhere. Because now, when they come to negotiating, for example, the report is that the Ravens offered 3 for $133. Yeah. Okay, so let's say I want to use Herbert. I'll use Burrow. Yep. Because Burrow's probably the best out of all the players right now. He says, listen, he's working this deal out. He may not get all guaranteed, but you're raising the bar so high. So now they might offer him 3 for $80. So when he comes to the table, Lamar, they're in cahoots and everything. Lamar he's getting the 3 for $133 and he's getting the 3 for $180. It's okay. Well, if Joe Burrow's better than I am, cool, I understand that. Is he $30 million more? Is he $50 million? You see what I'm saying? So now you bring the bar higher for all the players. And eventually you may get a guaranteed contract. My thing is this. If you want change, we got to do it together. So now when all 4 of them quarterbacks, because they're all big for their franchise, when they come here and get that money to do it together, there's no way that all the owners can tell all 4 of them quarterbacks no. I love that move.
I love the idea of the move. I don't know if it applies as directly as all actors on a show negotiating with one entity. These are each actors negotiating with different networks who have different funds. All owners are not the same level of billionaire. All of them aren't willing to write those checks. Keep in mind, Jalen Hurts is not a #1 overall pick. Is Howie going to do that? Is Howie going to fold on that or say, absolutely not, don't play, we'll replace you, we've done it before. So it takes a lot of stomach to get on board with that. And if that happens to Jalen Hurts, for example, and I'm only using Jalen Hurts because he is not a #1 overall pick or a first-round pick, that happens to him, is Joe Burrow going to give him that money that he left on the table? This is not a television show. This is a different business structure. There are salary caps. You guys know, if you write guaranteed checks, you got to have that money in the bank. The cash got to be in the bank to write this check. We're not writing it on hopes and dreams and investments. So I love the idea of it, but it has to actually be applicable to reality, and each of these individual players has to have that access to that reality. So that, I love the idea and the concept, and I agree. The only way that something like this gets done is if they're all on the same page. But Joe Burrow is not going to write a $50 million check to Jalen Hurts if he leaves that money on the table.
Correct. But that, I think, Joy, is the fundamental reason why we don't see things like this get done. Is because rather than players operating in unison, they operate in silos. Because truth be told, why would Burrow care about Lamar Jackson's paper? He has no reason to.
Right.
But in the same breath, why would David Schwimmer, who at the time of the show of Friends, why would he at the time, who was the only one with the commercials, only one on the late night shows, only one popping at that degree, why would he care about anybody else? I think it will take Burrow, because Burrow, if anybody is deserving of the fully guaranteed deal like Lamar, like Deshaun, it's Burrow.
He changed that whole franchise.
He took the Bengals the furthest distance. He's been to a Super Bowl. Outside of his rookie year, he has been fully healthy. He went to the AFC Championship game when he didn't go to the Super Bowl. So if anybody can reach down and say, Lamar, you come up, Hurts, you come up, Herbert, you come up, it would have to be Burrow.
I think it's like, it's players against the owners. See, I feel like sometimes when we play this game of football, and I've been there, it's like, oh, I'm a Philadelphia Eagle. I'm a Bengal. You know, no, it's the players against the owners. You see what I'm saying?
I totally agree.
But if we come hand to hand, like, listen, if we negotiating together, your agent, what they offering? Okay, so now you play back and forth. So it might be the thing of raising the bar as far as the market. Because I do think that Burrow is probably the most deserving, right? Because he really changed that whole franchise. I just think that it's a realistic thing. Everything's impossible until it becomes possible.
I don't think that it isn't impossible. I just don't know if Schwimmer and Aniston, Courtney Cox, and Matthew Perry negotiating with one network is different than all of them negotiating with different networks.
Slick, I guess my thought is the network I'm speaking of here is the owners. We always talk about owners colluding. Bisciotti, owner of the Ravens, came out and said, I don't like guaranteed deals. Arthur Blank has come out and verbalized it. Woody Johnson has come out and implied it. Players, y'all can collude too, you know? Owners ain't the only ones who can collude. Y'all can collude too. Slick, you are the resident Bengals fan, Cincinnati fan. Speak to what we are talking about. Is it outlandish? Is it possible? Have you seen it before in other sports? Could they do it?
So as a Bengals fan, I love the vow of silence. I love that they're keeping it in-house and it's just between Joe Burrow and the Bengals. On the other hand, I love the idea of the community effort and the player empowerment that would create, because as someone who's covered both the NBA and the NFL, I've always found it galling that the NFL and the level of injuries and the precariousness of careers is associated with less guaranteed money than there is in the NBA, where you don't have career-ending injuries. So I would love to see that balance. But let's be clear. He would be making the fight. They would be making the fight, not for Lamar Jackson and for the guys that are involved now. This would be a contribution to quarterbacks moving forward and players moving forward, because that's essentially what the NBA players did in 2010, when they all said, we're going to structure our contracts so that we're all free agents the same year. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Amari Stoudemire, Carlos Boozer. It was a potpourri of great players, and all of the teams consequently created cap space looking to go after LeBron, looking to go after Dwayne Wade. But what they created, number one, was player empowerment. They were willing to take less on their guaranteed contracts leading up to that in order to create that power. Now, as a result, they were able to manipulate the system. They determined where they were going to go. They also got a lot of other guys paid that wouldn't have gotten paid the same way. The New York Knicks were going after LeBron James. They ultimately didn't get LeBron James. So Amari Stoudemire, despite having 2 bad knees, ended up getting way more money as a consolation prize from the New York Knicks than he otherwise would have. But they did it with the mindset of, we are going to take control of the system. And they did it collectively. And that would have to be the mindset. So as a Bengals fan, I want Joe Burrow just concerned about doing the best deal he can for him and the Cincinnati Bengals. But as a football player in general, I can appreciate if he and the rest of them collectively said, you know what, we're going to tilt the scales back in the other direction.
But, Joy, it does come down to being collective. Shady, 2012. Go back with me to 2012.
Yeah.
You were playing for the Eagles. I was playing for the Browns at the time. That was the replacement ref year. You remember that. We had our captains for the Cleveland Browns. They said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to call the opposing quarterback, and we're going to tell our quarterback, Colt McCoy, the first game, the opening possession, we're going to take a knee.
Yeah.
We're going to take a knee for all 3 possessions. Then we're going to punt. And we're going to hope that other quarterback, we're calling him, and we're going to tell them, y'all take a knee. Then they're going to punt. And then we're going to take a knee. Then we're going to punt. We are going to do that for the entirety of the whole first quarter. The reason being, we are going to do that essentially to go on strike to get real referees. Well, what happened, to Joy's point, it's hard to do. It's hard to get 2 53-man rosters, particularly 2 quarterbacks, faces of franchises, to essentially waste the entirety of a quarter for the greater good of the league. Well, what happened? On the first play, we ran power. Ain't nobody take no knees. And replacement refs stayed replacement refs until week 4 of the season when there was a colossal collapse on national television. So you are entirely correct that it is hard to do. But, Shady, I think the only way fully guaranteed contracts come into play is if players get on the same.
Yeah, I think it's just the quarterbacks. I think that's a cool example you use, but the quarterbacks are different, right? Like if Joe Burrow threatens the Bengals, if I don't get this certain amount of deal, if we can't negotiate it, then I don't want to play. They will panic. If Justin Herbert, everybody loves Justin Herbert for the Chargers. If he comes there, I'm not doing this unless I'm getting a certain amount of money, I'm not going to play. Jalen Hurts, I can keep going and going. They'll be forced to do something. And then once one player gets it, then the other player gets it, it becomes the norm.
Of those 4 quarterbacks, who's the most powerful in your mind?
He'll be LeBron James. That's Joe Burrow.
Okay, why would and why should Joe Burrow do this?
He could impact the league forever, right? And we're just talking about the quarterback position. Now you get running backs, you get linemen, you get in the free agency, right? Now it's always like a bidding war, right? But if you start doing stuff like this, now when you come to free agency, it's like, nah, unless it's guaranteed, I don't want it. And it's leverage. It's never been done before. No, it has been done before. Not only with Kirk Cousins, but now you got all these players, all these quarterbacks doing it. It creates leverage. If he can do that and create leverage for everybody else, he'll impact the league.
Let me be clear about this, though. I'm not looking at it and saying if they don't do it, then they're being selfish, okay? Because on the other hand, look, Joe Burrow is on the cusp of having a great career. All these guys are on the cusp of having great careers. They would potentially be making a sacrifice because the great power in it would be, and them collectively doing it, is that they're throwing the entire system into chaos. We don't know where it would go. We don't know how these negotiations would proceed.
The owners might call their bluff.
You think it's a risk?
They might.
Wait,
They might.
Do you think it's a risk?
Oh, I do, without question.
I don't.
Look, I already see it with Lamar Jackson. The league has already said, loud and clear, we're ready to move on without Lamar Jackson.
But that's the thing, though. People look at Lamar different for whatever reason why. They don't look at Joe Burrow the same way, right? They don't look at Justin Herbert the same. They don't.
But not right now.
Right.
Man, I'm telling you.
Elaborate.
Well, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert haven't done this. Keep in mind, this also affects fans. Fans want to win. Fans want to compete.
Right.
Yeah.
Fans aren't going to like this. They might understand it. They might say it's cool you're trying to get your money until you start going out there and the other team's quarterback who isn't involved in this is playing and kicking them up and down the field. There's always a sacrifice and risk in doing something upstream. Yeah. And crashing a system. Of course there's risk. Otherwise, you would just do it.
But the need is so strong. Like, they need Joe Burrow.
No, I agree. But no sacrifice comes without risk. That's just that's conflicting ideals.
The other part is that you don't have the wherewithal like in the NBA. They were all free agents.
Yeah.
So they could play one off the other.
Right.
Joe Burrow can't, you could get the fans behind it, and they go, oh, wait a minute, he's not signing with the Bengals? You mean we could get him with the Ravens, or we could get him, like,
right.
That would be the leverage where the fans wouldn't be against it. But if it's a matter of you're either playing for the Bengals or you're not playing, then the fans at some point are going to go, hey, come on, Joe, let's play. That's the impact we've seen of fans traditionally.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.